Thank you, Herb and Congressman Paul. I appreciate you being here and taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And as I mentioned, I'm Los Angeles County Supervisor Don Knabe. I'm currently the chair of the Board of Supervisors of Los Angeles County, the largest county in America. And as I said, I'm pleased to be here with Congressman Poe and, most importantly, my friend and hero Jessica over here. And you're going to do just fine. Today I'm going to share with you a survey about human trafficking that the National Association of Counties, NACo, conducted recently, and then discuss some of the things that we've done in Los Angeles County and to address this. As I tell people, it's probably the most horrific issue that I've ever been involved with in my political career. I've never dealt with anything worse than this. Just 3 years ago, I was briefed by two young women in our probation department about a growing issue occurring right in our own backyard. Girls, some as young as 12 years old, were being bought and sold on the streets of Los Angeles County and the region. And like so many, I just want to assure you this is not just an issue happening over there, but happening right in our own communities. This NACo survey results also show that this is not just an issue with Los Angeles County. As the congressman indicated, and I think when I testified in front of you in the Foreign Affairs Committee last year, I think there were a lot of recognition that's just not a local issue. But this is a problem across America, particularly large urban counties. To determine the extent of the problem, NACo engaged National Research, Inc. of Washington, D.C. to conduct this survey of county sheriffs, county police chiefs during the month of April. A total of 400 counties provided responses. The counties were broken down into three categories: large counties with population over 250,000, mid-sized counties 50,000 to 250,000, and small counties under 50,000. The survey results showed that human sex trafficking is a problem across the entire United States. 86% of the large counties said it's a problem, while 53% of mid-sized counties also identified it as an issue. So when it comes to the trafficking of minors, 40% of our large counties said it has increased over the past 2 years. And for these larger counties, it was a problem that is not going away, they said. 34% said arrest for human sex trafficking in the past year has increased. The survey also showed that sellers and purchasers of sex are the groups that are most often arrested for child sex trafficking. This may be due to recent safe haven laws across the nation that prevent minors from being arrested for prostitution. The survey also showed that there is a link between sex trafficking and minor children who have been in our foster care system, group homes, or involved in domestic violence or abuse proceedings. 62% of our large counties said there was a strong or somewhat strong link. We have certainly seen this in Los Angeles County, where at last year over 80% of the minors brought in on prostitution charges were already known to us either through our foster care or juvenile justice system. Clearly, much more needs to be done to identify vulnerable minors and put prevention programs in place. The county surveyed believed that providing a safe shelter or transitional housing is needed to combat this sex trafficking and to help children who are victims. And it's probably the number one piece as it relates to the financial piece to all of this is the safe havens and housing, as Jessica will address. Protecting young children and keeping them safe from their, it says here, pimps, but again, it's a recognition that we don't want to even use that word, just rapists or whatever you want to call them, other than, because that word has been glorified. It's a huge challenge for all of us and something for which we need to find solutions and funding. I want to, a couple of shout outs, thank Matt Chase and NACo for conducting the survey, and we do have a detailed report for all of you that will be available. So across the nation, our eyes are finally open to the fact that minors are being trafficked in our streets and across state lines. While we have a long way to go to end this issue, I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish over the past 3 years in Los Angeles County, the largest in the nation, as I mentioned. I told you about two of the women that came to my office to raise this issue with me, and one of them is here today. Michelle Guyman is out here, who has done an extraordinary job and made LA County a leader in combating this horrific crime. For us in Los Angeles County, it started with building awareness. and I started building awareness with myself. I would argue that there is some public knowledge of human trafficking, but to most people, it is happening over there, as I mentioned earlier, in some distant foreign country, not here in our own communities. So we began our efforts with a focus on several levels of outreach. As a member of the board, a supervisor, I also sit as a member of the Metropolitan Transportation Authority. Over 2 years ago, we launched a campaign to post information in multiple languages about sexually trafficked youth on all of our 3,600 Metro buses and our rail cars, our trains, its stations, all Metrolink trains, which the Metrolink is a system that I also sit on that crosses county borders, to shine a light on this travesty in the places where we believe young people are most vulnerable. And public transportation is a vehicle that they use to move these young ladies. 2 weeks later, we launched. 2 weeks ago, we launched a follow-up campaign. To focus on our young victims. The County of Alameda is in Northern California. Again, they created this particular billboard campaign and generously shared it with us, and that's what I always encourage everyone. It's a good use of resources. We didn't have to recreate the wheel as we, took it to a higher level. This was the original program that we had, and this is the new program. And I just want to thank Alameda County again for sharing this with us. I've also been very pleased that the private sector supported our efforts on both campaigns. We had Clear Channel and Lamar Advertising have donated hundreds of billboards. We also created a video called Manipulated to tell the story of child sex trafficking through the eyes of a survivor and an undercover officer. It's had over 82,000 hits, and it's been viewed in over 171 countries, and we have copies available in the back as well. So raising awareness, however, is not just about the public. Through a federal grant that Michelle and Hanya were able to get, we have trained over 5,000 people, including judges, attorneys, community partners, county staff, and other stakeholders who regularly come in contact with victims. Similarly, we would like to help medical professionals in emergency rooms, another chasing point in ERs, and we would like to, also on the rape crisis centers, help identify victims. So through this federal grant, we also established a collaborative court to focus specifically on the victims of child sex trafficking. It's an isolated courtroom. In the past, children arrested for prostitution were often released, given a slap on the wrist, back out into the parking lot, into the hands of their scumbag dude, right outside the courthouse door. Bang. Through the court, we are now able to provide young girls with a victim-centered response team to help them with their physical as well as their mental health issues and to support them with housing, education, and training services. I'd like to thank the head of that court, Commissioner Catherine Pratt, who is here with us today as well, for her incredible work and dedication to the victims. And I don't, until I can describe it in great detail, but until you go into that courtroom and see the commissioner and others, the team around these young girls operate, it's an absolutely amazing scenario. So, Commissioner, I really appreciate you making the trek out here. Los Angeles County has hosted 2 of the first ever national empowerment conferences for the victims and at-risk girls to help them overcome their challenges, heal their wounds, and look towards the future. I'd also like to thank one of our survivors who's here today, Christina, for sharing her story to help these young ladies. Of course, helping the victims is critical, but we also must find ways to prevent this atrocity altogether. We have developed a curriculum that we are using in probation halls called My Life, My Choice, and hope to bring that into selected middle schools where we know exploitation is at its highest. So while survivor and prevention programs are fundamental, legislative action is necessary to punish the true criminals and defend the victims. I would like to thank Judge Poe and Congressman Poe, for whom I met earlier, as I mentioned last year. Also to thank the California delegation and especially Congresswoman Bass for their support and this bipartisan support for his key legislation, that and on other bills which will fight this horrific crime. Earlier this year, I joined with a bipartisan group, and there's even bipartisanship in the state legislature right now in California. Standing behind me together, and they have a number of bills and to support a war on child sex trafficking, a legislative package that could have immediate and strong impact, up to and including, having sex trafficking called a gang crime, allowing wiretapping and other issues. And this is coming from those that may not be a purveyor of wiretapping, but with this horrific crime, they're advocating on both sides of the aisle. So it's going to change the way we prosecute and punish the sex buyers, including longer jail times and increased fines. But I strongly believe, again, that the scumbags that are responsible for the rape and torture of these young girls for their personal profit should have nothing but the entire book thrown in a court of law. It's been 3 years since we started on this journey in Los Angeles County, and I'm proud of what our county staff, through the original efforts of Michelle and Hanya and our entire team, what we've been able to accomplish over the last few years. I'm pleased that people are becoming more aware that aggressive efforts are underway now to prevent this horrific crime. We need the support of our federal partners like Congressman Poe and others to increase penalties and funding for services for the victims. We see through this NACo survey results that this is a national issue that must be addressed, and as we see patterns in child sex trafficking across geography, we also must develop models for protection and prevention by working together across all levels of government. The voices of these abused children often remain silent. In the past, young girls arrested for prostitution were judged by society exactly as their scumbag pimps predicted. That life, outrageously, the pimp life, has been celebrated, and I think that's why we want to eliminate that word. So through education, survivor and prevention programs, and legislation, we will reverse this injustice. Young girls, those who are responsible to protect, will know that no matter where they are from or how they've been trafficked, they are the true victims. We will be here for their support, to help them realize that their lives are valuable, and most importantly, that they are worthy of the dreams they once imagined. So we must do everything we can do to get these girls off track and onto a path of a better life. Together we can say, no more, not in our streets, not to our young girls. Thank you.